Charlie Cox's return as Matt Murdock / Daredevil in the latest episode of She-Hulk Attorney at Law was great. I loved that episode. I thought that Charlie Cox did an incredible job. Obviously, the man basically is Daredevil after 3 seasons of his own show as Daredevil on Netflix, plus Defenders, which I never watched. Seeing Daredevil again got me in the mood to go back and rewatch the first time that I was exposed to Daredevil as a kid, the 1990s Spider-Man animated series. There was a 2-part episode where Matt Murdock appeared. They later packaged those 2 episodes as like a DVD movie called Daredevil vs. Spider-Man. So I went back and watched those 2 episodes today, and I gotta say, for 2 20-minute episodes of animated television from the 90s was pretty good. Some of the animation was wonky. The mouthing was a little off sometimes, and the 3D modeling through the city is obviously an early technology at the time, but some of the animation wonkiness aside, it was a fun story. Good justification for having Matt Murdock get involved, because the series had been building up Kingpin as an enemy kind of in the background before this 2-parter. There's a couple references to an episode with the Hobgoblin, which was one of my favorite episodes as a kid. I remember watching that episode just over and over and over again, the Hobgoblin episode, possibly because it was Mark Hamill voicing the Hobgoblin. I'm getting sidetracked though. Peter Parker is hired by Wilson Fisk's son to work for his weapons company as a computer software troubleshooter, and he is then framed for Wilson Fisk's selling of military secrets to enemies of the United States, because some evidence was the suspicion was being thrown their way anyway, so they needed a fall guy, so they hired Peter and let him take the blame. Now, of course, that does lead to a plot problem of, well, Peter was just hired, I think, 2 or 3 days before the FBI catches on. One, isn't that really quick? Nobody's that's weird. But also, if they had already had suspicions that this was happening, and Peter just got the job 2 or 3 days ago, how could he have been the one to do it? The questions aren't really answered other than Fisk is buying off everybody, including the, should I spoil things? I won't spoil things. Fisk is buying off some important people involved in the investigation, hires one of Spider-Man's earlier enemies from the series to come back to help in the framing of both Peter Parker and Spider-Man, separately of course, but we know that they're the same person, and thus both Matt Murdock and Daredevil have reason to get involved. We get a telling of Matt Murdock's origin story, as well as Daredevil's, from a conversation that he has with his client, Peter Parker, and then also his own internalized, Peter, I wish I could have told you the full story about how when I became blind as a kid, I also got my senses heightened and I got trained by a man named Stick. A little cheesy internal monologue, but when you've got 40 minutes to tell a story of Daredevil's origin, we also in the second episode get Kingpin's origin, plus a story where Spider-Man's being committed for, Peter Parker and Spider-Man are being accused of an espionage crime, and we've got corruption from people that Fisk has bought off. There's a lot going on in this episode. Oh, and Aunt May, the stress of Peter being publicly broadcasted as an enemy of the state on the news, and him being arrested while home with her. The stress puts her in the hospital. There's a lot going on in this story, but it all fits. It all feels cohesive. It doesn't feel like there's too much going on. We've got Daredevil and Spider-Man meeting for the first time. They do fight briefly in the first episode, though they quickly realize when Kingpin's guys are shooting at both of them that they are on the same side. So the title of Daredevil vs. Spider-Man, a little misleading. What you gonna do? But yeah, it's a good little two-parter. It's in the third season of the Spider-Man animated series, which you could find on Disney Plus or, the series has been out since the 90s. There are means of finding it online. I recommend checking it out. While looking for the names of these two episodes to watch them again, I also found two other animated appearances of Daredevil, which are actually his only real substantial appearances other than like Easter eggs in the background of some other things. His first animated appearance was in the 1980s series Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, Iceman and Firestar. Another show I watched a lot as a kid because I loved Spider-Man. But I had never seen the episode with Daredevil in it, and I was like, oh, I can't believe that I missed that. Like, that feels like it'd be something really cool. Well, saying that Daredevil is in it is a bit much. He's a cameo in this. In fact, Daredevil himself isn't part of the story. It's only Matt Murdock. Spider-Man has a doppelganger with his exact same powers from a mad scientist trying to recreate his powers and succeeding on the first try, of course. And so Spider-Man needs a lawyer. Matt Murdock is brought in for 2 scenes in the episode, and we've got Stan Lee narrating and going, oh, Spider-Man, if one day you might learn that Matt Murdock knows what it's like to have a secret double life because he's also the famous superhero Daredevil. It's always fun to have Stan Lee narration, which they do throughout this series. The episode itself was goofy in a good way, a fun kind of goofy. Of some over-the-top villain voice acting. Spider-Man, I, the arachnoid, and now the most powerful villain, get trapped in my webs. So not much of a Daredevil episode, but I'm glad I watched it. And then Daredevil also appeared in an episode of the 1994 Fantastic Four animated series. Was it on purpose that it came out in 1994? His involvement in this episode is much flimsier than in his other appearances outside of his own series. I have no idea, honestly, why he gets involved. The Fantastic Four lose their powers, and the Thing's girlfriend goes to Matt Murdock to be like, hey, do you have any advice for what they should do? They're not in legal trouble. They lost their superpowers. Why would she go to him? Unclear. But because he learns of that, then Daredevil is able to get involved and help them defeat Dr. Doom, who's trying to kill them while they are in this weakened state of losing their powers. The Daredevil, as he's shown in that episode, has like the abilities that you would expect, but his personality is a bit more of a trickster than I'm used to seeing Daredevil portrayed as. It wasn't like horrendous or bad or anything, but like it was a little strange. It wasn't my favorite thing, but it was fun to watch. It wasn't a show that I watched too much growing up. I wasn't a huge Fantastic Four fan, but I was like, oh, this is cool. But regardless, I've been talking for too long. I've just went on a little bit of a Daredevil rabbit hole since watching his appearance in She-Hulk. But I think that I've nerded out for a little too much. Thank you for indulging me in my rambling on nerd stuff. Let me know if you've seen any of these Daredevil animated appearances before. Also, what did you think of Daredevil and Charlie Cox's return to the MCU after a while, if you don't count his one scene in Spider-Man No Way Home? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a good week.